said, it's on. At first, I started with completely different thing. I was doing masks on South American culture as far as the Olmec and Mayan, and I just didn't. There just wasn't enough there really, and just I mean the Northwest Coast Indians is it's just a really rich culture, and we have a lot more information, just research, more museums and history on it. So from the Columbia River to Alaska, the Northwest Coast region is of many different native cultures that had similar characteristics and traits. Social structure and mythology were key factors in the different art that was produced, and the reason that the art looked like it did. Throughout the Northwest Coast, mastery of the environment and the use of native materials that the people relied on are shown in the beauty and the difference of decorated objects made for the different purposes, the different cultural history, mythology, and the reason behind the art had the influence on the form, the decoration of the art, the different color schemes. Everything was employed into the mask, and the mask had a huge part on the culture. Works of art, they had huge totem poles, which I looked at, but I didn't necessarily focus too much on that because the main research was for the mask. The use of the mask can be found in dance performances at feasts. Potlatches were huge ceremonies, and even secret society ceremonies. And I didn't necessarily get into exactly as far as that, but the secret society was literally like I sort of thought like a mafia type thing. Because like they only had certain masks that they wore, and it was sort of to preserve their culture and their history. Masks had a prominent role in place along with certain functions, such things as included rituals of fasting, ceremonial bathing, and like I said, the responsibility of maintaining the culture and tradition. Masks were used as cleansing devices that ensure the presence and protection of certain spirits. The Northwest Coast Indians would use certain masks to reenact historical encounters between people and animals or spirits. They would use the mask to show fantastic images of spirits in their transformation from animal to spirit form. The three main types of masks was the single, mechanical. This is just some pictures of it. Single, mechanical, and the main one that I'm going to focus on later in the paper is the transformational mask. Of the most advanced and interesting was a transformation mask, and it was used during performance, and the storyline dictated a change in character. To transform, the dancer would turn away from the audience and pull a hidden string beneath the mask. Transformation was a magical process that was kind of like a metamorphosis from flesh into the spirit world. Masks played a huge role in everyday life, just like it is seen with other early cultures and even our culture today, certain things. The life around the people had a huge effect on the mask and what went into the mask, like form, color, and feature. I'm going to go ahead and this is just different pictures of masks. And the next thing I want to focus on, maybe this is the main thing as far as the mask. This is prevalent in all masks. They're called ovoids. It's the most dominant shape in the Pacific Northwest coast. It was like a rounded rectangle with interior tension pushing to the top to form a convex, similar to the shape of a bread slice. The lower side is sometimes seen with concave at the with a concave and less curvature from the upper side, so as to have the greater width in the center. These oval-like shapes vary in size proportions depending on the kind of subject or creature they're used to symbolize. But all ovoids have the same common qualities, whether they are long and slender or fat and round. The ovoid is always symmetrical and horizontal, holding the bark down in the middle before cutting. They would cut. The artist, the sculptor, would cut. The symmetry is not so noticed on the outer edge of the ovoid, as it is modified by contact with others. Go back to some of the and all of the different. That's the main thing that was constant in all the different masks. All the main traditional colors of the Northwest Coast Indian mask were black and red. The pigments were made from natural things around the area and woods. They were made from fungus, moss, berries, charcoal, cinnabar, and various types of ochre. Most pigments were mixed with something I wouldn't want to do, but it was mixed with chewed salmon eggs. So they would have to chew it up, and they would mix the pigment, and that would be what would make the proper consistency for the paint that was used on the mask. And so that was secured by mixing the pigments with the oil from the eggs. So the main colors were red, black, yellow, and green, blue. And the most, this is going to be the most complex mask. It's a transformation mask. And there's different stories. I didn't find, the main one I focused on in my paper was the salmon bringer. It was a Bella Cola from the Bella Cola tribe. But all of them had different, I didn't get a peek like that. As far as the picture in there of that one. That would be closed. And open. It's really cool to see. It's crazy to think that they would have these on their face and be able to have it as far as the heaviness. That would be the full entire. This is one of the things I went and so there's still a lot of culture that they still use it. The Seahawks logo was inspired by the Northwest Coast Indians and the rich culture of those around them.
Questions for Brett? Go back to that frightened child and angry teen. So that's just a universal cultural experience, I guess.
A puberty
Oh, okay. Is that what it was? For probably. Okay. What kind of wood or what is that?
might be tested.
How heavy were those things? They look gigantic.
They do, and mainly it was just the wood that was in the woods, but it was eider. So it wasn't. And a lot of them were hollowed out, so it wasn't
That'd
as
help a little bit.
and it wasn't as heavy. And then they dried, so as they dried, they weren't as heavy. It was. I mean, just looking at them, I would think they would be really heavy as well, but they weren't.
Do they see through? Like when these are closed, especially like the big bird ones next, do they still see through that when it's closed?
Well, I tried to find, like, there wasn't a picture that I could find that was like showed it really perfect. But some of them did have like this would have been eye holes right here. But most of the time they were more on top of their head than they were actually over their head.
It's like part spaceman. Other questions? Let's thank our speaker again.
Interesting, culturally speaking, that they would recognize that a frightened child would transform into them.
I think so too. I've never seen anything quite like that in a mask. I think that just I like that. Okay, let's thank our speaker again. And our next talk will begin in 5 minutes. Looks like we have cookies coming in, so this is a good time to run back there and grab something to drink.